Now brace yourself, ladies. It's time for your success. And I want to warn you to watch your step because it's about to be glass everywhere. With this one, we're shattering more than glass ceilings. We're coming for inferior mindsets, overwhelm, burnout, limiting beliefs, and false narratives. You know, that secret stuff we keep to ourselves while hiding in plain sight. All of that is about to change, and you are about to experience success on your own terms. It's time to show up as the best version of you, and I promise you are going to love who you are within. This success experience will be both transformational and game-changing. Professional you is going to take center stage, but hear me loud and clear. You're coming off that stage, a whole and complete woman. This bundled experience features my signature success conference and the success workshops. My conferences always make maximum impact, and the workshops are always life-changing, especially for those who are ready to experience more and be better. Now listen, I know all of this sounds good, but I need you to be convinced that this is for you. So let's go deeper on what you can expect. We'll explore 4 areas that are key to sustaining you long term. They are balance, confidence, transition, and of course, success. Night number 1 is for you if you're feeling overwhelmed by everything, or perhaps life's demands are taking a toll. Maybe you have little time for yourself, or maybe just maybe you find you're functioning on fumes. I want you to know balance is not something you find. It's something you create. And the dynamic Nicole Rhone is going to help us achieve it. So be sure to join us on night number 1 if you can relate to any of that. Night number 2 is for you if you're afraid to ask for what you want, afraid to ask for what you need, or even afraid to ask for what you deserve. Maybe you've learned recently that you're being paid unfairly, or even more, you have career goals that are going unmet, or you find you're dissatisfied at work. I want you to imagine the best version of you, and then I want you to show up as her. She is confident, and she is you. The fiercely empowering Erica Spradley is going to help us achieve confidence. So be sure to join us on night number 2 if you can relate to any of that. Night number 3 is for you if you're experiencing the dreaded burn out, or even worse, you feel dissatisfied by it all. There is nothing worse than being deflated by something that consumes so much of our time and day. Or maybe opportunity is knocking and you sense it's time for a shift. I want you to know the only way to do great work is to love the work you do. And the powerhouse, Dr. Patrice Buckner Jackson, aka Dr. PBJ, is going to help us transition and shift. So join us on night number 3 if you can relate to any of that. Now, night number 4 is for you if you're ready to win. Perhaps you've been holding back, not going for it, when you know the call is clear and the time is now. Maybe your dream feels real and you know it's attainable, yet you're paralyzed with fear and playing small. Or maybe, just maybe, you're like me, a pro at hiding in plain sight. Listen, it's imperative that we embrace our power. And yes, it's imperative that we go. And if you know me, then you know success is my lane. So join me on night number 4 if you can relate. So again, we're going after 4 key areas: balance, confidence, transition, and success. All with one distinct goal: helping you build a life you love. This game-changing experience is way more than a conference. It's an opportunity to invest in your potential, your future, and of course, your success. This success experience is 100% virtual. So no matter where you are in the world, you can join us live right online. So mark your calendars, March 28th through the 31st, nightly. The Success Conference is totally free, but you must register to attend. And you can enroll right now in the Success Workshops. Get more information on my website, and you can register there too. www.denisetaylor.live. Join me and the entire Success team. We're looking forward to helping you soar. Well, hello there. It's Denise Taylor. You know, I'm always excited to have you join me each and every week right here on Life, Love, and the Pursuit of Happiness. Now, this is the place where you can count on me to encourage you to build a life that you love. Now, I believe that God has given us power. And with that power, especially when we embrace it, we can be, do, have, and achieve anything that we want. I believe that He is giving you divine inspiration. And with that, you can go after it. Whatever it is, you can do it. Now, whether you're listening to me on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, or you're watching on YouTube, I want you to know I am excited that you are here. You have connected in the right season, baby. I'm telling you, you have. Now, before we go too far, let me say this. Thank you to everyone who purchased the book during my author release. My brand new book, Embrace Your Power and Go, is officially available, but there were a select few of you who took advantage of the author release and got the bonuses, and I am so glad to be connected with you. I've been praying for you. I am hopeful for you that as you take this journey, you will come out on the other side ready to go. So thank you for being connected. Now, if you missed that window of time, don't fret. The book is officially released. It's available on Amazon. You can find it there. It is also available on my website. You can purchase it there. You can continue to get connected. Thank you so much for your support, and I am so encouraged by you. Now, let's talk about this season. Let's talk about success season, because we are now in it. Success season is always about the Success Conference. This is my second time hosting the Success Conference, and this time is going to be just as amazing as the first. I Am Success is happening the last week of March. We have an amazing lineup. We got an amazing agenda. But what I want you to know is that this game-changing experience is more than a conference. Real change will come when you not only attend the conference, but you also take part in the Success Workshop series. Now, the workshop series is where real transformation is going to happen. Now, we've got 4 incredible women, and I call myself incredible because I'm one of the 4 that are showing up to really serve you in this success season. On night number 1, we have Nicole Rhone, who is going to show up and help us really create balance. On night number 2, we've got Erica Spradley, and she is all about confidence. On night number 3, we've got Dr. Patrice Buckner Jackson, known as Dr. PBJ to some, and she is going to slide in real smooth and help us with pivoting and transition. And on night number 4, yours truly will close out anchoring in on success. Now, those women, including myself, when we show up, we're going to deliver the mail. That means you're going to get all the goods at the conference. But if you know it is really time for you to take hold of your life and emerge as a whole and complete woman, then you need to be a part of the Success Workshop series, because again, that's where we're going to go deeper and real transformation is going to happen. Now, visit my website, www.denisetaylor.live. All of the information you need is there. You can register for the conference there, and you can enroll in the workshops. Now, I don't want to delay anymore because I have a fantastic guest today. The next couple of episodes are going to be focused around the Success Conference. And so you're going to get a chance to hear these powerful women up close and personal before we go live at the conference. And today, Nicole Rhone is joining me to have a fantastic conversation around balance. Now, let me just give you a tidbit. The thing that's unique about the DeniseTaylor.live conferences and events is because none of them are exactly the same. The lineup changes. And now that we are really anchoring in with the workshops, that means that the workshops will change. And so if you sense this is your season, this is your success season, and these are your people, and the words that are being shared from us are ones that you need to lay hold to and really take action with, then you need to take advantage of the opportunity in the season of the opportunity. The lineup will change next time. And so if this crew is your crew, then you need to be a part of this experience from beginning to end, from the conference to the workshops. Now, my conversation with Nicole goes deep. She taps in, and I'm telling you, she's walking in her calling as the capacity coach. She's going to help us understand how important it is to create the balance that is going to sustain us as we emerge more successful. So as always, I am excited to have the signature stars join the podcast. And when I think of Nicole, she fits that bill. When I think about her testimony, her service, and how she shows up for all the women who call her coach, I am so excited about her being a part of the Success Conference. The lane that she's going to help us unpack, discover more about, and figure out how to effectively create is balance. And so the Zen world is coming to life with Nicole because she helps us to understand how to bring it all together when we are overwhelmed. And if you're anything like me, life can take its toll. We're trying to juggle work, home, relationships, and everything else in between. And so when we talk about balance, this is her zone of genius. And I am so glad to welcome her to this episode of Life, Love, and the Pursuit of Happiness. So welcome, my dear friend.
Hey, I am so excited to be here. Just listening to you talk and thinking about, the Success Conference. I'm ecstatic because there's so much to unpack. And, I know we're going to get into the balance piece and, how we navigate through that. Before we jump in, I just want to say balance is similar to the premise of to each his own, right? Like what my balance looks like or feels like is going to be different from what it looks like for you, for what it looks like for your sister, for your best friend. So keep that in mind as we talk about that today.
It's interesting, not to just jump right in, but let's go ahead with it. It's interesting that you bring that up, because I remember once speaking with my cousin, and I told her, I was like, at work, there will be people who have a workload like I have, and they would be overwhelmed by it, where I sometimes say it's not enough. So when you talk about each its own, our capacity is different, and it varies by person, because again, what can seem overwhelming to one person could just seem like a drop in the bucket to others. And to your point, what feels like balance, the creation of a safe place to thrive, could feel completely different for you than it does for me. And so I think recognizing that and acknowledging that upfront is really going to be the most impactful element, because it's not cookie cutter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. So we jumped in. Go ahead and tell us more about Nicole Rhone before we go any further, please, ma'am.
Absolutely. Well, I am Nicole Rhone. I am the host of the Flow and Flourish podcast. I'm a capacity coach. Those are some really good titles, but the most important ones are mom and wife. And because of my experience climbing the corporate ladder and understanding what it's like in real time to deal with, both a teenager and a toddler and a marriage and all of those different things, I've come into this space to really help us understand, how do we do it all? And number one, do we have to do it all, right? And so I say that to say, I love what I do. I'm grateful that I get an opportunity to help educate everybody about what capacity really is. Mm-hmm. It brings me joy that, for the last year and a half or so, I've had people reaching out saying, girl, when I hear capacity, I see your face. I think of you. And I didn't, hear capacity so many times. It's like when you're looking for a car, you get a new car, right? You see it everywhere. And so I'm just excited to be in this space to be able to help us all understand not only what capacity is, but how to manage it and how it shows up in both our personal and our professional lives.
So let's go directly there then. Help us understand your definition of capacity and why it's so important.
Absolutely. So when I started to get into the coaching space and transition from my 20 plus years in corporate, I heard about capacity in terms of, team building and resources and all of those different things. And so naturally, when God gave me this download to be the capacity coach, I went to the dictionary. And what I found was not something that was identical or even very similar to what I had experienced and what was put in my spirit. And so I say that because my definition of capacity really is our ability to manage our time, our energy, and our resources in order for us to show up in excellence, regardless of the room that we're walking in. Mm-hmm. So whether you're walking into a boardroom as a leader, whether you're walking to the bedroom as your wife, or you're sitting down in the kitchen with the family, having the capacity, the time, the energy to really be present, and to understand how all these different pieces of our lives work together in order for us to create whatever that balance is for us is important. So that's my overarching definition of what capacity is.
That's beautiful, because it acknowledges all the roles that we take on. And it does not say that something has to be discredited for me to thrive well in another area. It says that in this experience and in this moment, I'm going to show up with excellence, regardless of the room or the role. And I think that that's very powerful, because oftentimes we think that in order for one to increase, something has to decrease. And that's not what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah. And that's why you see me doing my hands up and down. I'm mimicking the scale, right? Mm-hmm. Because I've heard so many people say, well, there's no such thing as work-life balance, because on a scale, one goes up and one goes down. My belief is that when you manage your capacity, you're doing so in the way that allows you to never, ever have to sacrifice yourself, your family, or what matters most to you. And so you're putting together this optimal state based on what you value, what your priorities are, and what you're giving your time and energy to. So yeah, I'll just keep on going. So I'm gonna pause.
So I love that. And I think one of the things that you've been able to anchor in on, especially when you start referring to flow, right? That's something that is a key component of your community and how you serve. It's about the flow and flourishing. So help us understand the different dynamics of flow that you tap into.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad you brought that up, because without the ability to flow, I want you to for a second think about water. Water flows naturally, right? If something's in the way, let's say it's a rock, it goes around the river or around the rock in order to do what it needs to do. And so I created these different pillars of flow that for me represent those very central parts of our lives that allow us to be able to have that balance, to create capacity so we can be the ones showing up in excellence. So I believe that there are these 5 different areas that impact our ability to flow, to flourish, and manage our capacity. Now, the first one is our heart flow. And that is all about the different relationships you have, not just with other people, but with yourself, right? How do you feel about yourself? How are you showing up for yourself? But also, how does, the relationships that you have impact how you show up for yourself, but how you show up at work? So whether those are, intimate relationships, friendships, coworkers, all of that plays a part and can take a toll on our capacity. So our mental energy, our emotional energy. It's about recognizing what's healthy, what maybe is not so healthy, and how those relationships impact the other areas of your lives. And then we have what I deem your workflow. So yes, this is all about the work that you do and whether you're fulfilled in that work. So whether you're someone who's working in a corporate space, or if you are, a full-time entrepreneur, or even a combination of the two, then how you feel about the work that you do, that level of fulfillment is going to impact, again, how you show up in your relationships, right? So for example, for me, when I was still working in corporate and I was stressed out to the max and all of that, I would come home snapping on the people that I loved because of how things were going at work. So there's this intimate relationship, and those are just the first 2. The third one is going to be your health flow. And for me, this focuses specifically on your physical, mental, and emotional health. And again, it's very, very much so related to how you show up at work. So if physically, let's just say, you are in pain, you don't feel good, you're dealing with something, health-wise that nobody knows of, it's going to impact your ability to interact with your people at work. It's going to impact how you, navigate your relationships with your family. And if you think about that from an emotional standpoint as well, and our mental health, which now, we're trying to help break that stigma. When you have those things that are going on that you and I have talked about, such as those secret struggles, right? When you have your health flow that is just off, that's going to show up in your relationships, it's going to show up at work. And so then we also have your cash flow, because you cannot be complete without money, whether, I don't know what your beliefs are around money, but for me, we needed to survive, right? It's part of the process. And so I believe that how we manage our money, what we do with it, what we spend it on, that impacts how we show up for ourselves, how we, feel about ourselves in so many different ways. And then last but not least, and I leave this one for the last one, it's your faith flow, because I believe it's your anchor. It's my anchor. And as someone who has been through a whole lot of somethings in my life, really being able to tap into and understand what's going on with your faith impacts your ability to manage your money. It impacts your ability to show up for yourself. They're just so very, very interrelated. And I know that, that was the very high level. I wanted to try to get out as much out as I could, but all of them are interrelated. And the whole key of this is is when just one of those areas of flow is off, your capacity is compromised, and your ability to create, that balance that you desire is going to be impacted.
That's so good. So powerful. I think one of the things that you've been able to take a journey on in discovering how intertwined all five of those are had to have come from a personal place, right?
Ooh,
It had to have come from a journey of realizing the last statement that you said, which is when one of them is off, you are out of balance. You are off kilter in some aspect of who you are. So give us a little bit of the backstory, right? Because I think that's the point that helps to build the credibility for this story and experience, and why you are so powerful in showing up in this way is understanding that I didn't read about this, that I didn't, study somebody else's go through, that you took a journey that landed you here to be able to serve effectively in the way that you do.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. It really started for me, this whole, journey on understanding capacity. It started, I want to say, in 2019, probably a little bit before then. When people say long story short, it's not that short. So I'm still going to say long story short. What was going on is that, in my workflow pillar, everything was popping. Everything was good. I had the corner office, right? Had the parking spot with my name on it, climbing the corporate career, making six figures. All of that was phenomenal. At the same time, my heart flow, what was really going on in my heart and in my relationships, I was secretly struggling with my marriage. My marriage was in the toilet. We were on the brink of divorce. My daughter was suffering from chronic migraine. So I was struggling to really show up to work in the way that I wanted to. Mm-hmm. Everything looked great on paper. The house in the suburbs, the dog, the two kids, the cars, all of those different things. And what happened is that because I was secretly struggling and I was not dealing with what was really going on outside of paper and what people could see, is that I was stressing out beyond even what I could understand, to the point that it literally landed me in the hospital. And I remember the day. It was January 19th, 10 days after my 35th birthday. I ended up being in the hospital and getting rushed to ICU, because what was happening is that all of the things that I was secretly struggling with were manifesting physically. And I remember the doctor saying to me, I don't know why a 35-year-old woman who has been the picture of health is laying here fighting for her life. Help me understand, because every textbook that I've read, all the patients that I've seen in my last 25 years of being a doctor, I've never seen anything like this. So let me give you a little perspective. What they found out is that my CPK level, which is a level that measures the amount of protein that's in your blood, the normal level is 200, okay? Mine was at over 200,000. Over 200,000, ma'am. And from what the tests were telling them is that my results seemed as if I had been literally one of two things. Let's call it an earthquake, and concrete fell on me and I had been crushed and left for dead for a week. That's when they've seen those type of readings. Or that I'd been in a very, very bad car accident where people had been traveling at least 100 miles an hour and had a head-on crash. These are the type of situations where they have seen CPK levels that high. And so the doctor said, ma'am, first of all, I'm going to need you to address whatever it is that's going on at work or in your personal life, because what it's doing is manifesting physically. And you're going to have to choose. You have to decide, do you want to continue to live in that state? Because if you do, I've seen your two babies that are in here. They love you. They need a mom. Like, what are you going to do? You have to choose. And so because of that, of course, like many of us do, I know I'm not alone, in the middle of all of that, I'm praying and I'm asking God, like, please don't take me, help me figure out what I need to do, whatever I got to walk away from, in order to make this shift so that I can live. I need you to help me, to guide me. Mm-hmm. And from that moment on, he deposited the word capacity in me, right? I have been operating beyond my capacity, mentally, emotionally, financially, even, I was out spending because I was hurting. Like, there's so many different things. But for me to bring it all back, I had to understand and be willing to make some decisions to shift my capacity. And so what that looked like was me, separating from my husband. It meant me leaving my job and finding a new job at the time that reduced my stress. And it wasn't just the stress. I was commuting 4 hours a day, right? 2.5 hours one way. So there were all of these different components. And that's when I realized, you know what? Not only what's going on in my personal life is impacting my professional life, but my lack of faith, right? Me not being diligent in, going to God and asking for help until, all hell breaks loose, how that was impacting my capacity, how my spending was impacting, how I felt about myself. And I was trying to run from what I really was feeling. What it all came down to is I was running, Denise. I was running. And until we are able to deal with, that's why I have heart flow, the very first one, until we're able to deal with all the things that are really going on in our heart, our capacity is going to be off. Our balance is going to be jacked up. And I promised that I would, spend as much time as God sees fit, helping us to understand what capacity is, how to manage it, and how those different areas really impact each and every one of us on a daily basis.
So first, I want to say thank you for sharing your story and being so transparent. I think that there are so many women, professional and otherwise, who will be able to relate to that, because sitting here listening, I know I did. And it's so funny to me because I literally just said to my husband this morning, I said, I, over the years, have been the queen of just stuff it down and keep going. Just stuff it down and keep going. The queen of that. In the midst of that experience, I still had all the resemblances of success, right?
You didn't look like what you've been through, right?
And I didn't look like what I was stuffing either, right? And so you're right. You have all of these different dynamics that are going on, and you come up with coping mechanisms, but you don't deal with it. And anything left unchecked is going to run rampant at some point. And what you experienced was it coming to a head, right? It came to a head and it forced you into a seat that you had to make some difficult decisions, some difficult choices, so that you could bring the zen back to the world of capacity for yourself. And thankfully, you've been able to recover a lot of what you had to calm down, your relationship with your husband, your family, your finances. You've been able to recover it. But it did take you being willing to make that shift and that choice when you started to feel the ground tremble and you found yourself in the hospital giving every indication of an earthquake that was happening with all that stuffing down. It started to quake up. And so I think what's powerful, especially for those of us who are hot and heavy on that path of building a life that we love, of pursuing our dreams, of pursuing success and achievement. I am not in any way saying to anyone that you don't deserve it, but I think you deserve to experience it in a way that it doesn't kill you in the process. And I think that's the value of giving consideration to what we're talking about right now. One of the things that I am looking for the Success Conference to be a hallmark on is, yes, achievement of success, but I want us to really build the whole woman. I want her to understand how to shoulder the success so that she doesn't become a victim of it. And that to me is one reason why it is so extremely important to have you as a part of this experience. So when we come back, I want to hear from you. What made you say yes to being a part of the Success Conference? Okay. You know, it's incredible to me when I think about the fact that I have been doing virtual events for well over a year now. When I first started on this journey, I never imagined all of the people that I would invite onto the virtual stage. And even more, I never imagined all of you who listen, all of you who tune in, all of you who support and are a part. I would have never imagined all the feedback that comes that talks about how inspiring the events are, how impacting and enlightening they are. You know, God has really encouraged and challenged me to take things to the next level and to level up and help us transform. And that is what this success experience is all about. You see, the success experience is twofold. There is the conference, and we know that when these women come, they are going to deliver the mail. They are going to show up strong. They are going to be as impacting as in ever. There's no question about that. But true transformation and change comes when you work that thing out. And the feedback that I got, that I responded to, is that the events are indeed impactful, but I want them to be transformational. I really want us to be the change we want to see. And that requires us to put in the work and trust the process. So when I think about the success experience, it's twofold. It is absolutely the conference, but it's the workshop too. You see, in the workshops, we get a chance to go deeper. We get a chance to spend more time. We get a chance to engage and interact, and we get a chance to really come through with some detailed tips that are going to help you be able to soar in your space. You get a chance to spend more time with the conference speakers and to engage with them personally. You get a chance to be a part of all of the replays, whether it's replays of the conference or replays of the workshop. See, all of that is set up to help you be more successful. It's there to help your journey be made smooth as you begin your climb to soar. So this is my personal invitation to you to stand up and be a part of the transformation process. I absolutely want you to attend the conference, but even more, I want your life changed. There is something about me receiving the messages that says, you are making a difference in my life. I want that for you. I want your life changed. And I know that when we do the work, the me work, we can see that happen. So consider this, my invitation to you, to be a part of the success workshops. Get the workshop pass, because it is the workshop pass that's going to help you be the change you want to see. All right, now that we're back, I want Nicole to answer for us the key question. What made you say yes to being a part of the Success Conference?
Well, Denise, before we went to break, you were talking about being able to, consistently have that success and building up to that. And so for me, I wanted to make sure that I'm helping us understand how to do that sustainably, right? And that's what capacity is about. It's about helping us really to not only obtain and maintain success, but to do so in a sustainable way. And so I am just thrilled to be able to talk about how these different, areas of flow help us to get that success, to do it, in the long run, and to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves at the same time. That was my reason for the yes. So we can all win and continue to do so for years and years and years to come.
Absolutely. Okay. So the biggest question that I want our listeners to hear from you is this, or the biggest answer to the biggest question, whatever is the right way to phrase that. I want them to hear from you who you're showing up for. Like, if someone is asking themselves, should I tune in to the very first night of the conference when this conference kicks off? Nicole is taking the virtual stage. Is she going to be talking to me? Who are you showing up for?
Who, a whole lot of us, right? Like the first couple of things that come to mind for me are the overachiever, or the one who is addicted to achievement but doesn't really know she's addicted to achievement, right? You are, you've been on the honor roll your whole life. You've gotten, the really good jobs. You're used to winning. You're grinding, you're doing all of those things, but your identity is tied to that achievement. It's tied to that. I'm talking to the people pleasers, right? Those of us who have difficulty setting boundaries. We might set them in our head, but we're not communicating them, right? Because we don't want to hurt nobody's feelings. We don't want to lose relationships. I'm talking to those of us who say yes when we really need to and want to say no. That woman. I'm talking to those of us who struggle with imposter syndrome, right? Am I good enough to be in the room? Do I deserve, to have this leadership position? Am I a good wife? Those of us who struggle through those kinds of thoughts. And for the women who are overwhelmed, who have 1,001 thoughts running through their heads and don't know where to start just to sort it all out, that's who I'm talking to. Those of us who are questioning, should I stay in this relationship because I've been here for so long, I'm just used to it, right? How do I incorporate, taking care of myself? Is there even space to do that? What does that look like? That's who I'm talking to. If you identify with any of those things, then you need to be at this conference.
Wow. That is incredible, because I found myself in a lot of those sentences, right? And I think one of the mistakes, especially that's perpetrated in the social media space, is that you see people show up and they show up strong. And we just assume that life is great for them and that they exactly they have no struggles. Everything is going well. What you are talking about is something that is so key for every woman that is achieving any measure of success. We have to figure out how to not discount ourselves in the process, how to remain a priority element of everything that's going on, and how to not reduce our care to simply manicures and pedicures. We've got to do way more than that to ensure that we have the aptitude, the resiliency, the strength, the fortitude for the mantle of greatness that has been placed on us. Mm-hmm. We can't just show up in the arena of professionalism, performance, or any other degree of success and expect to be able to handle that without something in place to deal with the areas that you've called out. That is one of the reasons why I felt it was very important to incorporate this intentional perspective into the Success Conference, because it is almost, how they say that blood pressure is a silent killer. Mm-hmm. This is almost the silent killer to success. This is why you see successful people walk away from it all. Yep. Because at some point it comes to a head and they have to then make the choice for themselves or not. And if we don't find the right ways to deal with this area, it will ultimately rob us for everything that we're working for. And so if you're wondering, Denise, why is this an element of the Success Conference? It is critically important for your longevity and for your ascent into success to be the right way so that it doesn't take you out. Now, one of the things that I have been very intentional about is not just showing up in the form of conference. There'll be a ton of information at the conference when each of us speaks. But what's also critically important is to stick around for the work, right? So that we can truly become the change that we want to see. So the conference is one element, but the workshop series that comes along with the conference is really where the meat and potatoes are. It's where more time is spent with each of us to go even deeper than what we're going to even uncover here on this episode that you're going to uncover on the first night of the conference. You're going to go deeper. When I looked at the title of your workshop, the keys to managing your capacity, there were a few words that stuck out. One is keys. When you start talking about a key, you're talking about the thing that grants you access, the thing that opens the door. When you start using words like managing, you're talking about bringing something within your control. And when you talk about capacity, you've already outlined us for that. Help us understand where you're going with the keys to managing your capacity as a part of the workshop series.
I just love how eloquently you put it, because the keys to me do unlock, right? They unlock your potential. They unlock your continued success. They unlock your ability to show up as God designed you to show up. And so for me, this is where we're going to be putting the rubber to the road, right? Like, this is where we're about to do the work. And we're starting really with that heart work. All those things that I talked about that are going on in here in that heart, we're going to bring them out, and we're going to work through really identifying, what really is happening in there. Have my values shifted? Am I spending time on the things that I say are my priority? Because, I say all the time that knowing is half the battle, right? So it's good that you're going to be able to attend the conference, but this part is where, if you really want true transformation, if you want work-life balance, if you want to really be able to have the energy to show up, as the mom, as the wife, as the friend, as the boss that you are, you got to do the work behind it. So we're going to be using the 3 keys that I have to really unlock all of those different things and put in place, some plans and give you some tools to help you manage your capacity moving forward so that you can, flow effortlessly.
Beautiful. I love it. And I cannot wait to see the women who choose to be a part of the journey on the other side. That's the part that excites me, because I know when you commit to doing the me work, there is always something magically beautiful that emerges, and that is more of you. And what I've discovered on my own journey is I thought I knew who I was. I thought I had an understanding about the beauty that I brought to the table. But I'm telling you, I began to fall in love even more with who I really discovered I really was when I got through the work on me. Like, when I did the me work, I emerged in ways that became captivating to myself. And I'm so glad that I took that journey, because I liked who I was and I didn't even know her. And so I think that anytime people commit to something like what we've put together, there is such a blessing for them on the other side of it. So I can't wait for those who join in the workshop series and what they're going to get out of it. Well, around these parts.
Can I piggyback off something?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So as you were talking about that me work, I realized that back in 2019, that's when I started that me work, right? And it became a ripple effect. And the work that is going to be done in these workshops is also going to cause that same ripple effect. That's what allowed me, to say, okay, what's going on over here in this marriage is not working for me. It's not healthy. It's killing me. it allowed me and gave me the strength and confidence to make similar decisions to leave that job and to find something that was better fit. And so as you do this me work, there is an absolute ripple effect that is tied to your ability to continue to be successful in all of the other areas of your life. So I just wanted to touch on that quick because it was jumping out at me. It's a ripple effect, y'all.
It is. It is. And it's so funny because my journey kind of began the same way. I was home on medical leave in the fall of 2019.
That must have been the year,
Denise. It must have been. It must have been. I was at home on medical leave, and I will tell you, I never slowed down in all of my life, even after having kids, to the point that slow down had taken me to. And my husband was working a lot of hours, which meant that I was home alone. We were empty nesters. And I'm not a huge TV watcher. And so I would sit in silence. And it was almost like God was like, this is the perfect opportunity because you're going to hear what I got to say. And he began,
got no choice.
Exactly. He began to take me on this journey that, to your point, has rippled into how I show up now. And you're right. When we are ready to do the me work, when we are ready to grow personally, God will do some incredible things in and through us. And I'm telling you, it's like nothing you could ever imagine. I could not have imagined that I would be doing some of the things that I do now, but he created an appetite within me that made me want to serve, made me want to care, made me want to show up, made the numbers in the performance less important and more about the impact and who's being reached. He just changed the game. It involved me in the sense of fulfillment that I have now. After taking the journey, is like nothing I've ever experienced. And I've had so many great successes in life, and I am on the brink of even greater because he has brought a perspective of serving into my life in a way that wasn't there before. And so I marvel at it. I really do. So you're right. That ripple effect is incredible. It really, really is when you do the me work. Okay. All right. So around these parts, I challenge people to build a life that they love. I always close out tapping into wisdom around life, love, and happiness. So tell me, what's your life wisdom? What would you tell your younger self about life if you could?
Oh, I paused because I asked people this question as well. I would tell my younger self to give yourself grace. You don't know it all. You're never going to know it all. Give yourself grace, even to figure it out. You know, the mistakes are necessary, the highs, the lows, all of those things. I would tell younger me to give me grace.
That's awesome. And we're so worthy of it, even though we don't value it like we should. That's for sure.
That's a whole nother word, ma'am.
All right. So what's your love wisdom? What would you tell your younger self about love if you could?
Ooh, I would tell my younger self that any kind of love, I'm torn in two ways. Number one, it starts with God, right? You have to find and know and understand the love of God. And when you do that, that transcends into how you love yourself. Love you like God loves you. Mm-hmm. That's what I would tell my younger self.
That's incredible. Mainly because when I think about everything that God did for me, and I didn't deserve it, and I was so unworthy for stuff that I know, you know, and he know even more than I know.
Things you done forgot about.
It makes me really see the depth, the breadth of how I have not been loving to myself. And we challenge ourselves to do that for other people. But the challenge that you just made to do it for me, from me, is
mind-blowing, right?
It is mind-blowing. It really is. Whew, okay. What's your happiness wisdom? What would you tell your younger self about happiness if you could?
I would tell my younger self that happiness is a choice. Mm-hmm. It's a choice, and it's not a destination. We have to choose daily. I know I do. I don't know about you, but I choose on a daily basis to be happy, which includes being grateful for what I have, grateful for what God didn't let happen, grateful for all the things that are going on. And that in turn gives me that happiness. At the end of the day, nobody has the power to make you happy. It's a choice. You got to choose it every single day.
That's awesome. That's beautiful. Well, I, again, just want to say thank you for being a part of the Success Conference. I know I am just a firm believer. I'm completely convinced that there are going to be women who are going to be a part of this experience whose lives are literally going to change. And so I just bless you for saying yes. I bless you for being willing to serve. I thank God that he got your attention because you are helping so many people from to avoid going where you had to go to show up and do what you do. You had to go to a really low place, and you are sitting there waving the flag and saying, you don't even want to go here, sis.
Let me stop you.
Let me stop
pump your brakes.
Pump your brakes. And I thank you, because oftentimes we sometimes get a blessing and we sit on it, but I'm glad that it inspired you to serve and to show up in ways that will make history.
I'm teasing over here. I'm trying not to be emotional. I just thank you for inviting me and for allowing me to share on your platform, and for you operating in your obedience to do conferences, and podcasts and all the things that you're doing to help shape us, to make us history makers, to help ensure that we are the success that God intended us to be. And I am just as grateful for you, your yeses, and the way that you show up and serve every single day, Denise.
All right. You are a gem. We could love fest all day, but let me
I know, right?
Let me just close out by saying success looks so good on you. And I look forward to seeing you at the conference.
Yay, I can't wait.
So I just want to close out with this. I love Nicole. From the very first time that I encountered her, I knew right away that she needed to be a part of the Success Conference. I kid you not. I was scheduled to meet with Nicole to do a bit of a meet and greet to discuss me being on her podcast. And within 2 minutes of the conversation, God had divinely revealed that Nicole needed to be a part of the Success Conference. I immediately stopped the conversation and began sharing with her of this experience. I am so glad that I met acceptance when I did, mainly because I know that how she serves is a tremendous need for high-achieving women who are pursuing success. Oftentimes, we can get things out of balance, out of kilter, and we can begin focusing on the wrong things and driving ourselves hard for results in ways that we really just need to recondition our expectations and recalibrate the areas of our life. And so I know that what she shared resonates with so many because it resonated with me. I also know that if you don't take appropriate action, you may find yourself in much of the same situation that Nicole found herself in, mainly because we have to take care of ourselves, because the mantle of success and responsibility is great. So I hope you heed the invitation to be a part of this success experience. And I want you to consider inviting your friends, because chances are you know someone who needs to be a part of this experience. I just want to reiterate this point. Each of the DeniseTaylor.live signature events are all unique. The lineup varies every time because God brings to the table what is needed in that season. It is on us to take advantage of the opportunity while it's available. Don't miss your lifeline. Don't miss your answer to your prayer. Make sure you plug in and become a part of this entire experience, because I know transformation is on the other end of you doing the me work. I know that because I found it to be true for me.
Well, that's it, beautiful. Thank you for tuning in. Don't ever forget that you truly deserve life, love, and all the happiness your heart can hold. Be relentless in building a life you love without apology. I'm Denise Taylor, and you can always find me in our free Facebook community. Life, love, in the pursuit of happiness, easy to find. Now, if you want more information about my success superpowers, as I'm sure you do, download my free Success Superpowers ebook at DeniseTaylor.live/podcast. And one last thing, always embrace your power and go.